supposed to do. Slavery was a business. Do y'all agree? Well, if slavery is a business, no one that owns a business sets up the business where they have to put in their own time, their own sweat equity, their own hands have to do what it takes to keep the business running. They are always involved in developing systems, policies, procedures, rules, and laws that will make sure that when they're not present, the business still goes on without them. So now the business of slavery has been self-refueling, self-perpetuating. Why? Because somebody dropped a bomb on us, black man and woman. Weapons of mass deception have entered into the brain.
And the last thing that a black man wants to come home to after fighting in this world is to have to go round two with his own woman.
Yes, sir.
And the last thing that a woman wants to come home to after fighting in this world is to come home to a man that ain't been fighting at all. So when marriage is done right, our houses become a spiritual recharge center where we can unplug from this no good, wicked, racist world and come to a place of pure love where we can extract both peace and power. So it hurt to see that these leaders, these organizers are suffering at home, fighting at home and fighting in the streets, which means they're less effective. So I said, man, instead of me having to keep on doing these little sidebar meetings all the time in these hotel lobbies by these copying machines, shutting down the business office, I said, well, here's before you say I do and here's after you say I do. Now we try to do like the old school doctors tell, look, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. And so far, they've been a great blessing to those that have studied these books.
So where did they get them? After you say I do, and what's the other one?
Before you say I do.
Before you say I do.
NuriMuhammad.com is the easiest way to do it. NuriMuhammad.com.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I would like to greet everyone in the viewing audience in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum, but in English, that simply is a prayer of peace be upon you. And today we're going to be talking about, man, I think it's probably one of the most serious subjects that we could be talking about today, because it basically is the demise or the survival of a nation. And that is the science of Black love. And there's nobody better to converse with on this topic than our guest today, student minister Nuri Muhammad, the student minister of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He's an author. He's a world traveler. And if you've ever met the brother, he's just a beautiful brother, period. I mean, when you talk about a brother who has a humble spirit, that's our brother. And he's on the screen. So, assalamu alaikum, brother Nuri.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Stephen. It's an honor to share space and time with you on this great revolutionary platform, the Black Narrative.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. And I thank you for, accepting my invitation to be interviewed once again. And I really appreciate that. So let's get right on into it. First of all, tell us a little bit about why you wrote these 2 books, Before You Say I Do and After You Say I Do.
Well, brother Stephen, as you shared the video clip from the Breakfast Club at the beginning of the program, it was a result of 2 things. Number one, positive peer pressure, where so many people that enjoyed my way of bearing witness to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They always buy a lot of my lectures. And I was getting so many letters asking, would you please consider writing a book? Because a book allows us to learn at our own pace. And of course, the minister said it like this. He said, reading will make you know, but writing will make you exact. So to speak a spoken word is one form of communication, but you become more accurate whenever you actually write on a subject. So positive peer pressure, constantly asking for and then the great pain of being invited by different activists, ministers, preachers, teachers, organizational leaders, community organizations, schools, colleges, presidents of universities, and having so many sidebar conversations with the invitees or the inviters to these engagements about male and female relationships. And so the mixture of that positive peer pressure multiplied by the conflict that these leaders of our people were having at their home front. And as we said in that clip you played, see, when marriage is done right, your homes become spiritual recharge centers where you can unplug from this no good, wicked, white supremacist world and come home to a place of love where you can plug in to that love and extract from it peace and power. And it makes you more equipped to go back into the world to fight for your family and fight for your people. But man, if you in the world fighting for your people and getting drained and then come home and have to fight again with your mate, that's double negative, which means that number one, you'll be less effective for building your family because the world's weight. Then number two, you'll be less effective at freedom fighting because of the family struggle. But I said, man, Brother Stephen, if we can find a way to try to breathe some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and convert those homes back into those spiritual recharge centers, everyone that's on the front line fighting for our people that were doing good would graduate from doing good to becoming great at striking a blow for our freedom and getting us closer to what God wills for his people. So that's how it came about.
Beautiful. Now we're calling this the science of Black love, because wouldn't you agree that love or relationships or marriage, there's a science to it, and many of us, we just go into it, but we don't go into it understanding that there are certain dynamics, there are certain principles that we have to follow to be successful.
Well, you said it right, Brother Stephen, and a synopsis for that, what you just said basically is it takes more than love to build love. You have to have knowledge. In the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, when God was assessing his people, which is us, listen to his words. He said, my people are destroyed, not from a lack of money, not from a lack of love, but my people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. And because they have rejected knowledge and the law of their God, I shall now too reject their children. That within itself is a whole lecture, a whole another program. Right. But the word science, coming from its Latin etymological root, sciere, means to know. So the science of Black love is the knowledge or the requisite knowledge one needs in order to find Black love, cultivate Black love, and get Black love to the ultimate objective of bearing the fruit that it was born as a system to bring birth to. So that is a good point. It's a science, which is a skill set and a knowledge that comes from theory and application. It is the how to do, and then it is doing what you know mixed together that brings about sustainable Black love.
Right. And so, we are taught in the nation that there are three sciences that we were never to be taught. And many of us don't even know that there are three things that we were never to be taught. And we'll go. And can you talk about, of course, we'll just say the science of business, the science of what we're talking about tonight, which is mating, and then the science of, what's the third one, my brother? Warfare, of course.
So just as you said, Brother Stephen, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad who was a black man born in North America, raised by God and taught by God with a specific formula to unpack the Bible, the Quran, our history, science, mathematics, and nature in a way that he could give us a prescription for all of our ills. He exposed to us so many revelatory aspects of life, and one of them was the fact that the slave master said that there were three things that must never be taught to the slaves. And you can now go to the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C., and they bear witness to what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. In 1867, 2 years up from Emancipation Proclamation, the so-called freeing of the slaves, Congress was meeting to determine whether or not they were going to allow black people to get a college education. And as they debated on the floor as to whether they were going to let black people go to get higher learning, universities, college education, they came up with two things that would be the requirement if we allow Negroes to go to college. Number one, no black people could go to white universities. And number two, if we allowed them to erect their own black colleges and universities, there are three sciences that must never be taught to those slaves. And that was the science of mating, the science of finance, and the science of warfare. And when we look at the statistics in these three areas, these are the three categories of our endeavor as a people that we struggle the worst and have the worst mathematics. You know, we don't know war because if we did, 95% of all black males that are killed wouldn't be killed by other black males that look like them and know them and sometimes are from their own family. Warfare, principle of warfare is number one, you must have the proper identity of your enemy. And by the fact that we're killing one another lets us know that we have not really identified our enemy, or we wouldn't be dying from so much, quote unquote, in war terms, friendly fire. Number two, finance. Here we are. We brought $1.3 trillion in last year and the year before, 1.1 trillion, 2018, 2019, making us the seventh richest nation on the face of the planet Earth out of 206 different nations. Yeah, we 47 million in the United States of America. And you got Spain with the same amount of people we have, but they're managing a 208,000 square mile land mass with their own institutions of education, commerce, business, railroads, airplanes. They got a whole nation managing with $400 billion less than what we have coming in. So we got a lot of dollars, but we don't have enough sense. We don't know the science of finance, because if we did, then we wouldn't be blaming the white man for 95% of our problems and still spending 97% of our money with them. If we knew the science of finance, we wouldn't be the leading consumers and non-productive in that which we consume. So that science was missing. And then, of course, as we're on the show today, dealing with the science of black love, that other science that the slave masters in Congress did not want to talk was the science of mating. And that, of course, has two sides to it. Whenever you're engaging in mating, the first thing is you have to pick the right prospect to bring with the other to start the process of procreation. Once that offspring comes from those two being brought together, the second side of the coin of mating is how do those two parent or cultivate that child into becoming what they're born to be. So we weren't taught how to pick a good mate. We weren't taught how to find a wife or how to find a husband. And we weren't taught how to be the right kind of mothers and fathers to the children that came from us coming together. These three sciences were blocked from us in 1867. And by the statistics, we have a 75% divorce rate right now among black people in America. We have a higher divorce rate as black people in America than third world nations that barely have clean and running water. We've got to be taught it all over again. So these books became, tools that we hope could be used to help us in the science of mate selection, and also in the science of after you say I do, how do you keep it together? That we produce children or bring birth to ideas in business or elsewise, that we actually are able to bring in existence sons and daughters, ideas, visions, dreams, and businesses that match the goal God has for us and establish a legacy for our families.
Yes, sir. And so we definitely want to get into some solutions, but right now we just want to outline some of the problems, because I think that sometimes, our people, once again, those were 3 sciences that we were never to be taught, that we didn't even know about. But now, if you can you talk a little bit about how the white, or the architecture of white supremacy has directly gone to disrupt and destroy the Black family?
Well, of course, we don't have to look deep into history to do so. But one of the things that we learned from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said, out of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward the researcher. And when you go back to the history of the interaction of the Black man and woman with Caucasian people, you find that from the very beginning of them coming in contact with us, they immediately began attacking the institution of family or Black family. We seen on the great walls of the Pyramid Giza, that great pyramid in Egypt that is considered to be the last living wonder of the world, 451 feet high into the sky, 451 feet deep in the earth, covering 13.5 acres of land, made of 1 million blocks of gold, granite, and marble, each one of those stones weighing 3.5 to 4 tons each, all stacked mathematically precise, east to the west, north to the south, up into the sky, down into the earth. And we built it without Caterpillar, bulldozers, or John Deere. We built that with the power of the mind to move an object. But in that pyramid, and all the historians bear witness, that there's no people on earth that are greater keepers of history than the Egyptians. And what you find in this pyramid is that every time you seen, or on the wall of the Pyramid Giza, one of the great ancient male gods, next to them is always a scraping where there once looks like there used to be an image there.
Come on.
And what they found, Brother Stephen, and those in the viewing audience, they found that you never seen originally, whenever they erected this Giza, every time Osiris was put on the wall, his queen Isis was right next to him. Wherever there was Alafun, Ilida was right next to him. Wherever there was a great male god, the woman, his queen, his wife, was always right next to her. But Napoleon trained his cannons, blew off the nose and lips of the Sphinx, went inside that pyramid and scraped away the image of the Black woman next to her Black man. Attack on the Black family. Why? Because they knew that we would one day look back in the history of our people and see what our ancestors were trying to tell us. What were they trying to say? Not behind, but beside every strong Black man has always been a strong Black woman. The real power base they were trying to suggest to us of Black excellence is a strong Black family. So then we got put on the slave ship, and they separated the children from the parents, and many of us heard our children die on the transatlantic slave trade coming from Africa to America on that 9,000-mile journey. We got to America. What did they do? They had a hard time, Brother Stephen, breaking the proud, powerful, productive, pious people from Africa. So they couldn't break the adults. So they killed off the adults of the first batch of slaves left the children there without their mothers and fathers, and then the white man became a no good, wicked foster parent, raising our babies to be trained as animals, not knowing anything about the legacy of their people. That's an attack on the black family.
Absolutely.
Then whenever we began to grow old and work, and now breeding came about. Take a strong black man from one plantation use him as a stud and a buck.
Right.
Find a fertile black woman from another plantation. They don't love each other. They don't even know each other, but she's fertile and he's strong. Put them inside of the horse's stable, produce some new nigger babies that I can make some slaves, send him back, never allowing him to be a father. Give that baby to the mother, but don't allow her to put her breast in his mouth and give the baby the formula God gave her for the child. Put a piece of pork with molasses on it and put my white baby on that black woman's. That's an attack on the black family. 300
years.
So here we are now in the modern time. And we've got ADD in the black community and ADHD. And I ain't talking about attention deficit disorder nor attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I'm talking about absent daddy disorder and absent daddy from the home disorder. Now in the modern society, the black man can't get hired, but they'll hire the black woman.
Right.
Creating a role reversal, fulfilling the original setup that Willie Lynch talked about in role reversal. And he said, Willie Lynch in 1712, the great slave maker, he said that if we can reverse the roles of the male and the female slave, then he will be a broken man. And listen to these words. And she will become psychologically frozen.
Wow. Come on.
So now, here we are. Look at these layers of destruction of a black family. And so it's become a hard challenge.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, it was against the law when we were on a plantation for a black man to marry a black woman. Now with all of that has happened to us, you almost got to make a law to get a black man to marry a black woman nowadays. A lot of work to do. A lot of work.
Now, I know that you're familiar with the writings of Jawanza Kunjufu. And one of the things that he was saying is that before integration, 70% of the homes was headed by the black man. You had a stable black family. After integration, you have the destruction of the black family. For instance, when we talk about these projects, right? The projects where the black man was not even allowed to be a part of the family. He wasn't allowed to be in that setting. Now he says that there are 70% of the homes, maybe more now, that are headed up by the black woman. Can you tell us, not just for us, but for any nation, what does it mean to a nation when the family structure, the traditional, and if you can define family for us, because I think that's something that we need to understand as well. But what does that mean when you see the erosion and the destruction of the family?
Well, I mean, that what Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu said on this point, very true. And his research is impeccable that he's done on various subjects to deal with the plight of black people, black families, black economics, and in particular, black boys. What we also found, to put a good footnote and as a witness bearer to what Dr. Kunjufu discovered and exposed, in 2015, there was a McKinley Irving law study where they went back and looked at the ancestry of us as a people 2 years up from slavery in 1867, and found that just coming out of so-called Emancipation Proclamation, 2 years up, 90% of all adult black males and females were married. And almost all of them stayed married to that same man or woman till they died. Go down into the modern times, and then here's 2015, 6 years ago, and Now there's only at the most 6 out of 10 that are married that are adults. And we have a 75% divorce rate. So if you got, 4 out of 10 are married in 2015. And then you got a 75% divorce rate for those 4, which means 3 out of 4 of the 4 adults that are married won't even make it. So the stats go from 9 out of 10 adults in 1867 married black man to a black woman to now only 1 out of 10 is going to make it to death through them part. So that is the side effects, or the residual effect of the destruction of the family, is ultimately the collapse and destruction of the entire social system that upholds the planet. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, where there are no strong nations, you can't have a strong world. And where there are no strong communities, you cannot have a strong nation. And where there are no strong families, you cannot have a strong community. And where there's no strong marriages, you can never produce a strong family. So the cornerstone, he teaches us, of family is marriage. So phase 1 of proper definition, not talking about a devil's definition for family, but a divine definition for family. Do you know, Brother Stephen, that when you unpack the variables of the Bible and Holy Quran, that the first institution established by God was not the temple, the synagogue, the church, nor the mosque? It wasn't the government. The first institution established by God was a family.
Yes.
So family becomes the foundation by which government, jurisprudence, economics, all systems grow forth out of family. Home economics informs all economics. So when you destroy the nucleus of all of the affairs of the planet, the root of all of the affairs of the planet, imagine if you had a beautiful tree, but somebody found a way to send a chemical down under the soil and erode the roots. It's only a matter of time before that tree that's above ground that once was beautiful dries out and loses its beauty, dies, and is destroyed. Well, so it has been with a world that we live in.
Right.
This destruction of the original structure God made up called family, and redefining it with the devil's definition, undermining the divine definition of a husband and a wife that bring birth to a children, and then those children have cousins and aunts and uncles. That nuclear family is the divine definition that God erects in the scripture. This other stuff is a man-made, and I'm being nice, it's really a devil-made concoction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when we look at this Western culture, you know, the influence of media, television, radio, even the video games that our children are playing, you know, and I forget some of the names of them, but they're all games where it's just total chaos and confusion and death. Can you talk a little bit, and then we'll get into some solutions about the culture, the culture and its influence on our young people, and how we can begin to possibly, you know, display a new image of what family should be?
Well, you know, unfortunately, some of the worst advertisement for the institution of marriage are married couples. When you go out in the public and you see two people laughing, having fun, and enjoying themselves, most of the time they're not married. But if you look across the room and at the restaurant and see two people with their face in a plate shoveling food, looking at their phone, not talking to each other, never laughing, not having fun. And you ask them, are they married? They'll tell you, yeah, we've been together for 33 years.
Right.
So the joy of marriage is not marketed and expressed because married couples seem to not be experiencing that level of love, peace, happiness, joy, and satisfaction. So I would suggest this. With marriage, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And you shouldn't just have a wife and use her as your personal cook, a maid, and a pleasure box. And you shouldn't have as your husband, his role is simply a bodyguard. He's a security guard. He's a handyman, and he's a human ATM machine. Those roles and functions of maintain, protect, provide is the function of a man. Make no mistake about it.
Right.
And to be a comfort and a consolation and feed your family nutritious food. It is a function of a good wife. Make no mistake about it.
Right.
But in addition to maintain, protect, provide, comfort, console, and cook, there has to be the ingredient of friendship in the relationship where you and your mate are actually friends with one another. And when you're friends, you don't just love each other, you like each other. And when you like each other, you enjoy each other's company. And if we would do a better job as married couples, being friends with one another, showing joy to the up and coming young brothers and sisters, then they would be more inclined, more interested in buying into the idea of marriage, because we got some good marketing coming from the married couples and their family, and the married couples from their people that they run into as they move through the public. So that's that. You know, that's something that has to be done. There has to be the friendship side where you actually enjoy one another's company. And in the book, we quoted a study done in 2012 from the Today Show, where they moved around the world studying couples that were happily married for over 60 plus years, and found that the longevity ingredient that kept them together in love with each other is that they were friends of one another, not just husbands and wives, but friends.
Right.
In most cases, Brother Stephen, best friends.
Yes, yes. And you know, one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know if this is scientific or not, right? But I think that, you know, when you talk about couples and the ones that you've heard have been together, like you were saying, for 30, 40 years, they met at a very young age. They met at a very young age, and it seems like they bonded. And it seems like that bond at a very young age seems like one of the strongest bonds. So let's go ahead and get into your thoughts on that, but also dating versus courting. So we'll go into some getting into the solutions now. Dating versus courting. If you can talk on that, those two dynamics.
Well, of course, it would be good in the words of the old hip hop legend, Slick Rick, to find that teenage love.
Right.
It would be good to do so. Yes. But there has to be a level of maturity present right. in order for two people to sign up for this most sacred of unions called holy matrimony and get engaged in this process of becoming one. A man that does not know where he's going does not need any help getting there. So you don't need a help meet if you don't have a purpose and goals that you've already set forth in your life to know how to pick your partner. Because if you find someone, male or female, that you want to make a partner and you don't know your purpose, then you might be engaged in a relationship with someone as your partner that is counter your purpose. And at the end of the day, real happiness doesn't come from money. It doesn't come from material things. Real happiness, so teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, comes whenever someone has found their purpose for living. and they are fulfilling that purpose, that person is a soul that has what's called an unspeakable joy. So you don't want to rush too much into the relationship just for the sake of saying, I got to find them young. You want to make sure that you're young, but not young and dumb. You want to be young and smart, young with morals, young with integrity, young with aim and purpose, and hopefully already found your purpose so that you can pick the right partner that complements and helps you fulfill that purpose. I think, Brother Stephen, as your non-scientific observation shows to be accurate, part of the math of what makes the couples that remain married so long, being that they started early, is that they had an opportunity to grow together. And by growing up together, they were able to help each other go into manhood and womanhood and various degrees of responsibilities over the course of time, which makes it easier because they built a different kind of bond with each other outside of the traditional male-female relationship. And then, of course, too, the younger you are, many times the less people you've been involved in. And there's a problem sometimes. Sometimes people assume that because they live at home alone that they're actually single. But to be single is more than just being at home alone. To be single, you have to be single in mind and single in heart. And if you are single in mind, that means that you are free mentally from whatever psychological impact has come from a previous relationship. And if you're free in the heart, that means that you no longer have spousal love for the person that you're not in a relationship with. Because if you jump into a relationship and you still have resentment in your mind toward what some other one did in the past, as soon as the new person says or does anything that was like what the other person said or done, you're immediately going to judge them as being them, even though their motive may not be the same.
Right. Engram.
Then, of course, too, the heart. You never should go after a new love if you have not recovered from and properly placed an old love. So if someone else is still living in your heart and you still have that spousal love for them, you're not ready for a new relationship. You might be single in body at home, but the bigger question is, are you single in mind and single in heart? Where you won't hold the new person responsible for the past one's mistakes, and you don't still have in your mind a coulda, shoulda, woulda, and I really wish I was with the person I already left.
Right, definitely. And one of the things that, for instance, when I was getting into relationships, because we are not taught this science, right? We go into the relationship as men and probably as women as well, thinking that the woman wants what I want, and she may be thinking that I want what she wants, but we do want different things out of a relationship. Can you talk about that and help us to understand how we can find some balance between these two natures?
Thank you, sir. To some extent, that is true. The demand of nature on the male and the demand of nature on the female, it is specific in some categories, but it is universal in general in others. And that is why that question you raised about dating versus courting is so important, because dating is not courting. Courting is a completely different process in the sense that courting has a specific objective. Courting is engaging in discovery with the intent of marriage. Dating could just be recreational expression with the opposite sex with no real specific goal for the future, just pleasure for the here and now. Dating is anti-God. Courting is pro-God. Courting differs from dating in the sense that whenever you are courting, as taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to us, you are engaged in interaction with the opposite sex, but you're never alone with the one you're courting. You're chaperoned by another married couple, particularly, hopefully, an elder married couple with experience, and their supervision or their being present with you as a chaperone, of course, helps to check the law of nature or the attraction you have one for the other.
Right.
In courting, there's no physical, sexual interaction or no physical contact with the person that you're courting. In courting, there's no conversation that is low or sexual. All the conversation is on the high level, dealing with spiritual knowledge or plans and goals for the future. When you're courting, you're looking for compatibility. You're engaged in the process of discovery with the specific objective of getting married. When you're dating, well, you're just dating.
Right.
So that process is something that most people call old school. But some of the stuff we call old school really should be called right school.
Right. That's right.
And it'll save us from a lot of heartaches if we participated in that process of courtship versus dating. If we were willing to, one writer put it out there, told black women that you should engage in the 90-day rule. Meaning don't have sexual intercourse with a man until after you've been dating him for 90 days. Hell, but what if that man's dating you and 12 other people and he got all of y'all on different 90-day cycles?
Man.
No, ain't no 90-day rule. The requirement for you to give yourself to a man in that way should be somebody has said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Now you may kiss your bride, but there shouldn't be no kissing of no bride or nothing else until commitment has been satisfied.
When I was doing a little bit of research for this interview, one of the things that a lot of us may not really know because it's the unseen, but it's these chemicals that we have in our body that flood us, when we're around that person that we're attracted to. And then, of course, these same chemicals blind us, you know what I'm saying? And so we can't hear or see defects in the other person until, those chemicals begin to wear off. And then we begin to see reality as it is. Can you talk about those chemicals? And can you also talk about how long should we court before, we say that this person is not serious?
Man, beautiful, beautiful. And that, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, he said the law of nature overrides written law. So even though the law that God gave us is written in scripture, thou shalt not commit fornication or thou shalt not commit adultery, the male and the female that has an affinity for one another and likes one another cannot trust, not themselves. You can't trust your own nature to be in an environment by yourself, because as the chemicals of adrenaline and the chemicals of serotonin and dopamine and the endorphins, all of these chemicals that come up from out of having love or attraction to the opposite sex, once these chemicals begin to flood the brain, then they cloud the third eye, which is the mind's eye. And that love has a blinding quality to it. And if you engage in the act, then now you are completely blocked from being able to do a wise calculation based upon deduction and reasoning and analytical thought processes. You're no longer weighing evidence anymore. You're no longer looking at facts because your feelings now have come into play and your feelings have overrode your facts. But at a certain point, my beautiful sister, my strong brother, those feelings are going to die down, and it'll be those facts that'll be present. And if you've allowed your feelings to come up to block your ability to perceive and judge facts, you'll engage in a relationship. And when the facts come out, you'll realize that this is not the person I thought they were. Why? Because I couldn't see. It was cloudy. It was foggy. These emotions, the chemicals that love and attraction produce, has blocked my third eye. I've been looking at him and her looking at her through these two eyes, but my third eye wasn't working right. So I seen them physically as they were, but my third eye, where my perception came from, caused me not to see these red flags of these issues. And I can't believe. So that protects you. It helps to guard you from the chemicals, the emotions that have a blinding quality to it.
Yes, sir. And I want to ask about, one of the things that is said in old school as well, right? Is that, I'm going to take you to mama, or I'm going to, take you to meet my daddy. How important is it for us to, find out about the other person's family as well?
Well, very important. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. That's what the Bible says in the book of Genesis. You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, and you judge a man by his works. When you mix those scriptures up, we are part of our family. We share DNA with that family. And even though we don't believe or prescribe to this concept of a generational curse, nor do we prescribe to high blood pressure, diabetes, so forth and so forth, runs in the family.
Right.
No, what runs in the family is bad habits. What runs in the family is not a generational curse, but it's generational habits that have been passed on from one person to the next. So you'd like to interview and be around that person's family so you can see what ingredients that they're made of. And I can say, be careful. Don't just assume because somebody's mother and father or uncle or aunt or brother or sister or cousin is a certain way, or the whole family is a certain way, that the person that you're courting is that. But you'd like to see and interview and do a comparison to find out if they are different from that. I was telling a story, Brother Stephen, the other day about two twins who were the product of an alcoholic father. And they interviewed the twins separate from one another. And they asked one of the twins that had become an alcoholic as well, why does he think he became an alcoholic? And his answer was, because my father was an alcoholic and I was around him all my life. And when it came to dealing with any problem, he didn't deal with the problem. He always used the bottle as a means of resolving it. So, I'm his son, and that's all I knew. I've seen my father doing it, so I did it too. The other twin brother, they went to interview him, and they asked him, did he drink? And he said, no, I don't drink. He said, I've never had a drink before in my life. And they said, well, what do you mean you never had a drink? I thought why have you never taken a drink? He said, I never took a drink because my father drank. And I seen my father all my life. Every time it came to solving a problem, he never solved the problem. He went and turned to the bottle, and I seen what it did to him. So I vowed I'll never take a drink. So there are sometimes, Brother Stephen, that you can see a person's family and let's suppose that they have prescribed to a whole new school of thought, and they've made a decision that they're not going to repeat history, but they're going to beat history.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. That's good.
And that family may be a certain kind of way, may have
Right.
certain generational bad habits, but this new man that you're talking to now, you see that he operates with a completely different modus operandi. He thinks completely different. He's not doing none of those things because he's seen the negative effect. He's not going to be like the alcoholic twin that repeated everything that he's seen. He's going to be like the sober one that never took a drink and beat that old generational curse.
Yes, yes. And I would definitely love to have you come back and, you know, get into domestic violence, you know, because that's a real issue. One of the things that's a lingering vestige of slavery in many ways. But now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that love is duty. Love is duty. That's powerful. He said that the word love can be replaced by the word duty. Can you go into that, and we'll begin to close it out. And I don't know if you have enough time to maybe take a few questions.
I would like to, if we can.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the lines of those who are watching. If you have that number, I'm going to go ahead and start opening up that line where you can call in. But yeah, if you can talk on that while we go ahead and open this line up.
Well, thank you, Brother Stephen. And as you just quoted our great master teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he highlighted how in the Holy Quran that the word love is mentioned 47 times, and the word loves is mentioned 44 times, and the word loved, past participle of the word loved is mentioned only twice. He said, however, there's another word that is mentioned in the Holy Quran that is the word love put in action form. And he said that 190 times in the Holy Quran, the word duty is mentioned. Love is a verb. Love is an action word. You can't claim to love something that you won't do anything for. The greater the love, the greater the activity toward the good of the object that we claim that we love. So there's you know, of course, we have so many, and one of the biggest impediments is that our concept of love and how to express love, we've been trained by way of music on what the meaning of love is and what love should be. And I promise you, you don't want no drunken love. You don't want no drunken love. And when you don't have the proper definition of love, you might come out like Tina Turner and just say, what's love got to do with it?
Right.
What is love but a secondhand emotion? So I think it was Music Soul Child that said it some years ago about love. He said, so many people use your name in vain. And people say love, but they don't quite know the definition of love. So love is duty. The most honorable Muhammad said love is freedom, justice, and equality. And when you love something, you want it to have those three essentials of life. When you love something, you don't use love as a noun that you just speak from your mouth. You use love as a verb that you show with your works by keeping your duty to the object you say you love.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. And so for those who are watching, if you would like to call in, we have that number below. Don't hesitate, call right on in. And you can ask your question to student minister Nuri Muhammad. As we go on and wait for those who call in, and they were calling in the beginning, so hopefully they'll call in as we go on. Romance without finance, right? Romance without finance is a nuisance. What would you say money, sex, and the lack of communication are? Would you say that those are the main issues that most relationships have?
Well, they seem to have some of the. I would say that's where a lot of problems come about. And one of the things that, as you quoted, I call that the gospel of Big Mama.
Right.
There's some stuff Big Mama said is just as true of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that's one of them. Big Mama said birds of a feather flock together. She knew what she was talking about.
Right.
Yeah, Big Mama, she's the one that said a family that prays together, stays together. So I would say that same quote, romance without finance is a nuisance, is true. But think about that, a family that prays together, stays together. See, the first form of communication should be with the family members to their God. And the more they can communicate to their God together, you are training yourself on how to properly talk to the creation of the Creator by communicating as we do in Islam, or supposed to do in Islam, 5 times per day. And what we find is by engaging in consistent communication with the Lord of the worlds, then we learn a more respectful, more dignified way of communicating one with another by proxy. So whenever two people talk to one another the way they want to be talked to, treat one another the way they want to be treated, then that kind of communication is a healthy form of communication that will keep couples from arguing. I don't think that it's right for married people should not argue. They should not have arguments. They should have discussions.
Right.
An argument is when two people have raised their voice in anger to find out and figure out who is right. But a discussion is when two people communicate with one another in a civilized, respectful manner to find out what is right. And whatever and whoever brings the superior what is right to this issue, that is who husband and wife bows to, and they move on in agreement with the highest truth. But arguments to find out who is right and not what is right are a destructive form of communication. They also, of course, the side of money, it is the medium of exchange. You have to have some economic resources if you want to be able to live up to the role of being a maintainer of your home. So there has to be money earned by that man in order for him to live up to his job description of being a maintainer.
Yes, sir.
So not only do you have to make money, but you have to properly manage the money that you make. And when you make money as a man and you manage it properly, then the wife in the relationship also has to manage her desires and manage her wants to make sure they fit in to the amount of income that is being earned. As a general rule, the Holy Quran says that a man should earn enough money and have put up enough money that his wife, if he dies, can live at least 1 year without ever having to go work anywhere and do anything and maintain that current lifestyle.
Right.
As a general rule, a man has to figure out as a mathematical calculation, what can I afford with my one income, and create a lifestyle that matches that one income. Because if your wife becomes pregnant, if she can't work for some odd reason or another, then you want to make sure that your fiscal responsibilities are under the means that you have coming in. Right. Now, you know, of course, in this world, it's very challenging for one income to be able to maintain a home. So, you know, that's the byproduct of capitalism, which is a destroyer of family.
Yes, sir.
Because now the number one teacher of the children, who is mother, can't be home with the children. The number one, not chef or cook, but the wife should be a food scientist. So teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How can you prepare a fine meal that can give your children and your husband the proper amount of protein, carbohydrates, and amino acids and fats and all of the macronutrients necessary for them to eat on Wednesday and have the fuel to function at optimal level on Thursday and Friday, if you don't have the time and energy. I just looked it up today. 60% of all Americans eat out almost every day. So there's no home cooked meals being prepared. And you do know, sisters, that when you're preparing a meal for your family, the ingredients that you get from out of the closet, the pantry, the drawer, or the cabinet, that's not the only ingredients that you're putting in the food. You are also, as you stir, as you flip, as you touch, you are also, as you're kneading, you're also, as you're mixing, you're also stirring in your love, or your feeling you have for your family is going into that food. But what happens whenever everybody's food has been manufactured? And I seen a commercial yesterday where Burger King, or hell, they should call it Murder King, is advertising that they have now taken 125 ingredients out of their food.
Wow, come on now.
What in the hell kind of what in the hell chicken sandwich need? What can you make that needs 125 ingredients in the first place? And if you took 125 ingredients out and you still have the food present, what kind of ingredients were they other than man-made chemicals that are harmful to the human body?
Come on,
So the ideal situation would be to have a home wherein the man is making the money, and then the management is good, and the management of desire on the part of the family is good, where we can operate under one man's income and be able to live according to that in a balanced, productive way. But you can't, you know, I'm gonna say this: if you're gonna be, you know, the minister said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said business is warfare. And if you're gonna be a real soldier, you're gonna have to go out in the world like a soldier as a black man, and you got to be a go-getter. You got to be a hunter. You don't wait on the white man to throw you no piece of meat in your lion's cage. You going out there in the wilderness and go chase the gazelle down and grab him and bring him back and feed your family.
That's right.
That means do something for yourself.
Absolutely.
So that is you know, it is an impediment, and the sexual side of it doesn't seem to be as much of an impediment, because we still reproducing pretty effectively. But that romance without finance is a nuisance is an issue.
And you know what, brother? You know, if we keep on eating that fast food, that sexual part is going to be an issue as well. Because we know, as you know, it's got so many chemicals in it, hormone inhibitors and all this type of stuff. Even in the wrappings, it's got the bisphenol A and things like that in it. But once again, I would love to have you on here to get into that science as well. We do
Well,
have
let
a
me know. We can
question.
do that. We can chop it up.
Yes, sir. Definitely. We do have a question. I'll put it on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Let me see if I can. Let's see here. Okay, here it goes. I'll put it on the screen here. It says, can we type in our, oh Lord, it says, can we type in our questions in the chat? Yes, you can. You can definitely go ahead and type in your questions in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and put them on screen as well as read them off. So I'll have one last question here, and hopefully we will get some questions in the chat for you. So you have, broken down so much for us. Now I want to talk about what the Bible says this wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. Can you talk about, what we need to do to keep ourselves in the right frame of mind as we're looking for a mate? And can you talk about the difference between being abstinent and being celibate?
Wow. Well, that's a hell of a thing for Jesus, from the wisdom of God, to condemn this new people, which is us, as a wicked and adulterous generation that seeketh after a sign. And of course, said, I give you no sign except for the sign of Jonah, as he was in the belly of the fish for 3 days, so shall the Son of Man also be in the heart of the earth. And that's a whole nother subject, because a belly in a fish, or a man in the belly of a fish for 3 days, Son of Man is going to be in the heart of the earth. In the same way, Master Father Muhammad, Son of Man, the heart of America is the automobile industry.
Mm-hmm.
The Detroit, Michigan is known as the Motor City, which would make it the heart of America, the heart of the earth. He was in Detroit, in the heart of the earth, Son of Man, for 3 years, as Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days. But that's another subject.
Right.
But
No doubt.
but wicked, and look at this, adulterous generation. See, that is different than fornication. Fornication is when two people that are unmarried are engaged in sexual activity with each other. But adultery is whenever someone out of the two, or both of the two, are married to someone else, but engaged in sexual intercourse with someone that's not their husband or not their wife. The downfall of too many men has been the upkeep of too many women. As a general rule, women have been one man women, but men have not been one woman men.
Right.
And it is the lack of respect that we have for the female that causes the man to think that it is okay for him to be able to cheat on his wife with many other women. And that lack of respect causes him to be more selfish. And he treats the women, or the woman, or other women, he looks at them not necessarily as a she, but as an it. And he can say that, man, and you listen to men when they describe their justification. They'll tell you, look, I like many different flavors of ice cream. Some days I feel like I want banana. Some days I want strawberry. Some days I want such and such and peppermint, so forth. But damn it, a woman ain't no ice cream.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So if the math is done, and our women have been the most loyal and loving helpers to us as black men,
man,
more so than any other women of any other race of people on the face of the earth. They've done more covering down for us and our shortcomings than any other woman of any other group of people have done for their men. So when the math is done, you can't say as a man that I'll never be able to get everything I want out of this one woman. So I got to have many different women that I'm involved with in order for me to be able to get everything that I want. Hell, by the math of her covering down more and being more loyal and loving to us than we have been to her, she can say the same thing to us and be more justified in that statement. Wow. But she hasn't done that. She hasn't ran around as a general rule trying to stack up a whole bunch of different flavors of men, because she sees us as a he. But something has damaged our perception where we don't see her as a she. We kind of see her as a it, and it makes it easy for games to be played.
Yes.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said this. He said to the sisters once, he said, "Sisters, you did not marry the man of your dreams. The man of your dreams is inside the man that you married. Get to mining him out." And the same could be said vice versa. As a man, you didn't marry the woman of your dreams. The woman of your dreams is inside the woman that you married. Get to mining her out, not get to going around trying to find a bunch of other women that you can be involved in to get different things from to justify your own sick pleasure. Mine out that which is in the woman that you have, because the woman of your dreams is inside of her.
Yes, sir.
So that adulterous generation, and that's what separates celibacy from abstinence. Abstinence really, I believe, if you look up the definition of abstinence, it's not limited just to male and female relationships or sexual conduct. You can practice abstinence from alcohol, cigarettes, abstinence from bad habits of any kind. Anything you abstain from is considered abstinence. But in the male and female dynamic, abstinence is a personal choice to not be involved sexually with the opposite sex until you are married. Celibacy, though. See, celibacy, whenever you look at the Catholic priests, they don't take a vow. They take a vow of celibacy, right?
Yes.
Not a vow of, why come I can't think of the word? Abstinence.
Yes.
Why celibacy? Why don't they say a vow of abstinence? Because abstinence means that you only are not going to involve yourself sexually with the opposite sex until you are married.
Right.
The celibacy means that you are not only are you not going to engage yourself in sexual activity while you're not married, but you also are never going to get married. We don't take a vow of celibacy in the nation, and it's not the code and ethics of God. Abstinence is in the code and ethics of God until you are married. It takes great strength. It takes great discipline to be able to do it. But I promise you, if you can bring, as the minister teaches us, the lower region, stomach, down to the organ, if you can bring that under the control of a rightly guided mind, there's nothing that you want to accomplish that you won't be able to achieve. Absolutely. If you can conquer your stomach and your lower self, you can conquer anything in the world.
Yes, sir. Powerful. And so I have a few questions that are coming in, if it's all right with you.
Yes,
because
sir.
Before we close out, I want to ask their questions, but I definitely want you to give us some insight into the beautiful relationship of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Mother Khadijah. And if you could talk too a little bit about the classes for the women, the MGT and the FOI. But I'm going to ask these questions. Then we'll end it with those. So let me go back up. And of course, a sister, beautiful question, and I'll put it on the screen. She says, why does heaven lie at the foot of woman?
Well, that is a little different than the actual quote. It is actually one of the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he said, heaven lies at the foot of mother. And many times that has been defined and interpreted as meaning heaven lies at the foot of mother, making mother the source of the heaven in that sense. But that verse, when you think about what is normally at the foot of mother, what normally is at the foot of a mother are children. So how does that match? Jesus is saying that you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven except you come as a little child. See, what's at the foot of mother is little children. You cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless you come as a little child. So the study of the characteristics of a child, not their childish characteristics, but their childlike characteristics, will help us to know the kind of characteristics we need in order for us to find ourselves in a heavenly state of mind. Now, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said this to verify, validate that question. He said that the only heaven for man is found in the woman.
Right.
So in that sense, think about all the work that people do to qualify themselves to go to heaven. What the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling us as men is that put in that same kind of effort, put in that same kind of work to qualify yourself to be in a relationship with a good woman.
Right.
Because not up in the sky and the sweet by and by after you die. No, right here, sound on the ground while you're still around. Your heaven is found in the good woman that you're with. Work hard to live up to the code of ethics, the way, the rules, the conduct that you would to go meet Jesus in heaven.
Right.
Work that hard to make sure you got a good, healthy marriage with the woman that you're with. And you'll find that you won't have to die to go to heaven. You'll find heaven right inside the woman that you're with.
Beautiful. So here's a question. It says, my question, I'm 24. What are some tips to find a partner? Just like you said earlier, I don't know how to pick a man. It's really important to me to be within my own race. However, it's difficult at times.
Well, that's a good start. You know, when you're picking someone to be your husband, you're picking a mate.
Right.
And a mate is a match. So if you had a size 9 red Air Force One, the mate is a size 8 right foot red Air Force One, not a pink Air Force One, not a white Reebok.
Yes.
You want the one that has the same color as the one that you're trying to be a mate of. So that's good part.
Yes.
My dear sister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us once about compatibility, and he gave a ratio of a 70% dynamic, that if you can match up what you have in your mind as an ideal man with someone that you're courting, if they meet up to 7 out of 10 of those traits that you're looking for, then that's a good sign that compatibility is present. So as a healthy tool for you as a young sister, sit down and write out, and this for the brothers too, write out, what is your definition of an ideal man for you? And write it out. And make sure you put psychological and spiritual traits above physical traits on your list. You should not start off the list with that he's got to be at least 6'1", dark skin, bald head, with smooth skin and long eyelashes. That should not be in the top 4.
Right.
Don't be trying to come after Brother Stephen. I don't. That's Brother Stephen I just described. But make that list, and then as you began to interview, court a potential candidate to be a husband for you, or a brother, or wife for you, then you don't tell them what you're looking for. You just kind of interact with them, communicate with them, and you'll see these characteristics manifest themselves. And if you can find 7 out of those 10 already present in the person that you're looking at, then compatibility is there. But if you only can find 3, if you only find 3 out of 10, 7 are missing, don't lie to yourself and think that you're getting ready to do something special and I'm going to love them and I'm going to put this good out. Don't trick yourself.
Right.
Thinking that you're getting ready to do something special, unique magic, and all of a sudden, hocus pocus shazam, after my touch, my love, and my food, I'm going to make him into all of that. No, you don't want somebody that only is 30% of the description that you gave as an ideal man for you. You want somebody at least 70%. If you find a man that meets up to 7 out of 10, you got a partner. But if you find one only meets up to 3 out of 10, you don't have a partner, you got a project.
Right.
And you shouldn't want to marry a project. You should want to marry a partner that can come help you with some projects.
Right.
So definitely. I hope that answers that question for you.
Yes, sir. And we'll put this one on. It says, explain the death of marriage, family, community when you live an adulterous life.
Well, of course, you know, the beauty of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is that he teaches us that we do not believe in the physical resurrection of the dead, but we do believe in the spiritual resurrection. And he goes on to describe in the Muslim beliefs that the so-called American Negro is most in need of resurrection, therefore he shall be resurrected first. But marriage, when they describe marriage, some of the synonyms for marriage is holy matrimony, a sacred union, and sometimes people call marriage a covenant connection. What is marriage? Marriage is a spiritual reality. So even though we don't believe in physical resurrection, we do believe in spiritual resurrection. So a dead marriage, even that was killed by adultery, can be resurrected from the dead. It is a matter of a choice between two people that have made up in their mind that they want to forgive and do everything they can to forget. They made up their mind that they want to hit the reset button, that the offended party believes in the sincerity of the offender, that they will never make that mistake again. And you all can come to that conclusion on your own. But I will say that if in your mind that you feel so hurt and damaged that to get back into the relationship with the one that violated your pledge and your covenant and your vows, that you feel like that you're not going to be able to trust them and that you're always going to be suspicious, it is wrong for you to hold the offender as a hostage in the relationship for the rest of their life. If you don't feel like you're going to be able to forgive and move on, don't try to jump back into the relationship. There should be, and there probably will be, a time period where you're still going to be stimulated every now and then by what happened in the past. That man, that's the offender, has to be willing to say, you know what, I made a big mistake. I'm going to take being looked at a little different. I'm going to take being pushed away sometime. I'm going to take even being suspicious of. I'm going to take all of that because I messed up. And if you are, as a man, are willing to take a temporary time where you're going to have to be reproving yourself, and the sister is going to say, you know what, I'm going to try to work it out where I allow the time of us doing it right and getting along in peace with no violations of the rules to regain my trust, then there can be the resurrection from the dead, not the physical resurrection, but the spiritual resurrection. And since the so-called American Negroes' marriages are most in need of resurrection, they should be resurrected first.
You know that's right. Now, this question is coming, and it's talking about multiple wives. You know, a lot of men have in their mind that they want multiple wives. Can you talk about polygamy? Can you talk about multiple wives and that whole dynamic?
Well, I'll just say this to save a little time. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that a good man does not want more than one wife. Let that marinate.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So if I'm a man,
right,
and I want more than one wife, that means I'm not a good man. A good man does not want more than one wife. So we don't prescribe to polygamy in the Nation of Islam. That is not our way, and it is historically been something done by the messengers and the prophets, because a messenger and a prophet not only is blessed in mind, but their seed is also blessed by the Lord of the worlds, and so his seed is carried on down through the generations through various different types of women that come into his life to bring birth to those children that will advance the cause of God and establish his kingdom. That is the function of the messengers. But for us, as a man, we should not want more than one wife. And if we find ourselves desirous of more than one wife, maybe it's a sign that we're not as good as we should be. Because a good man doesn't want more than one wife. So we don't practice polygamy as soldiers and believers in the nation.
And, you know, like you say, and there's so many dynamics, you know, to that as well. You know, when we were talking about no romance without finance, so many of us, we have these crazy thoughts of multiple wives and they're all living under one roof, or, you know, just crazy thinking. So we don't even know, first of all, we don't even know the science of Black love. Now we want to get in more trouble with taking on more than one wife. So yeah, that right there is a little much.
I mean, even if you just looked at it on the solely the horizontal plane without even calculating the spiritual, the spiritual should always be calculated, but just horizontally, that you cannot be a ruler over much if you haven't been faithful over little. So if you can't handle the responsibility well of one, what would make you think that you would be qualified for more than one? And the Holy Quran, when it talks about polygamy, and it was a prescription to help remedy a conflict of war in the ancient world of Islam, when all of the men were being decimated in warfare, the soldiers, the teachers, and the scholars, and even some of the close ones to the prophet were dying in the battlefield, leaving orphans and leaving widows. So whenever they were engaged in polygamy in the Quranic context, it was to cover down for the lack of men able to take care of widow women and the children that came forth to keep balance in society. And listen to the words of the minister. He said, Allah prescribed a lesser evil to help check the potential of a greater one. the greater evil would have been prostitution.
Yes.
To try to survive. But the lesser evil was polygamy, but that's the wording that he used in one of the messages. So,
right.
You know, the Quran says it like this. One wife is best for you if you but knew. If you but knew.
Right.
If you but knew.
Right.
One is best.
That's
so
right.
If the believer, as we've been taught in the Holy Quran, according to its writing from Allah God, he says, and the believer follow the best of what has been revealed. Well, if we follow the best of what has been revealed, the Quran was revealed, and one is best for you is in that Quran, then he's given us a instruction that we should strive to be good, honorable, and faithful to that one.
Yes. Yes. So now to wrap it up, just these
yes,
last
sir, I
three
have
questions.
To close it out because you're going to get me in big trouble in little Chinatown with my whole family.
I'm sorry. The classes. Well, let's just jump. We'll talk about those two another time, and let's just get into the beautiful relationship between the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Mother Khadijah.
Well, 68 years of love and companionship of this beautiful example. I see people posting all kinds of celebrities and entertainers through social media. They slap a hashtag relationship goals on them. But the real proof of a relationship goal is Mother Khadijah and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. For a man to say about his wife that she has been the wind beneath my wings. Wow. The wings are the wisdom that he has received from God through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The wings are his ability to fly, but wind makes the flight easier and makes it probable and possible under circumstance. I would hope that one day that we would be able to have that kind of love, all of us as Black families. But I'll say this, if you want a Khadijah, you got to be a Farrakhan.
There you go. There you go.
And if you want you a Farrakhan, sister, you got to be a Khadijah.
Beautiful.
If we work on being him as men and the sisters work on being like her as women, then the two, we can have some Farrakhan and Khadijahs all over the United States and the world in the very near future.
Absolutely. I want to thank you, and I want to thank your family for you giving us this much time, brother. I really appreciate you, love you for all the work that you do on behalf of the leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You have been a beautiful representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And as we close out, are there any last parting words that you would like to say? And if you want to let the people know where they can get those two wonderful books.
Yes, sir. Well, continue, sisters and brothers, to, recognize me. I'm just a student in the classroom with many other students with desks right next to mine. But if you like anything that I've had to say, you're going to absolutely love what my teacher has to say. And my teacher is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Go to YouTube and then go to store.finalcall.com and pull up all of the messages you can get on marriage by him. And if you like some tools that you can have in your home to help you to convert your houses into those spiritual recharge centers that we talked about earlier, then go to NuriMuhammad.com and click on Before You Say I Do and After You Say I Do. And I have 3 other books on there as well, plus over 100 lectures that you can get as well. NuriMuhammad.com. Thank you so much, Brother Stephen. Thank you,
beloved.
The Black Narrative staff. May Allah continue to bless you all. Can't wait to do it again.
Sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Same here. May God continue to bless you, my brother.
You as well, sir.
All right. And so I want to thank all of those Walaikum salam. So I want to thank all of those for tuning in to this powerful conversation. Please like, us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. Just type in Black Narrative. There are some other Black narratives, and follow them too. So follow us, but also, I have a nonprofit organization called Knowledge for Life, and we're doing a fundraising goal. We're trying to raise $5,000. And as you know, what Knowledge for Life, what we do is we bring together Black professionals in a forum setting to talk about issues impacting our community. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and check us out. I'll show you the flyer. We have a powerful program that's coming up with some of the student ministers who are going to be talking about the prison industrial complex. As we titled it, Prison and the Injustice System, Ending the Perpetual Cycle of Slavery. And we have student minister Troy Muhammad, student prison minister Brother Lionel Muhammad, Brother Marcel X, and then we have some sisters who are also going to be talking about, the situation of our women in prison, because really the prisons were never designed for our women. But unfortunately, our women are now increasingly going into the belly of the beast, and they're going into the belly of the beast with these male guards. They have these prisons, the cells that have bars where they can look in, where, so tune in to that. Once again, that's going to be on October the 12th at 7 p.m. It's going to be a powerful conversation. It's a fundraiser for my nonprofit organization, and whatever you may be able to donate through that link is much appreciated. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out. We can't close out without encouraging you to get the #1 newspaper, the Final Call newspaper. We know that the mainstream media is lying. We know that, they are controlled by corporate powers. Therefore, anything that goes against the corporate, that feeds the corporate monster, is censored. Our brother Riza Islam, he has the I got censored hashtag, or not hashtag, but @sign. And I have been censored. Of course, Knowledge for Life has been censored. So it's rampant. And of course, the leader, of course, he would be censored because Satan is ruling, but he's losing his rule. He's losing his power. So with that, I encourage you to get the Final Call newspaper. And last but not least, definitely listen in to the Final Call radio every day. If you need to get recharged, if you need to get back in balance, tune in to the Final Call radio. So we'll go ahead and close out with those commercials. May God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding as I leave you as I came before you. Assalamu alaikum.
Are you tired of corporate-controlled media? Then it's time to subscribe to a new way of gaining access to independent and timely news coverage. Introducing the Final Call Digital Edition. The Final Call Digital Edition is on the cutting edge of print news delivery. The Final Call Digital Edition carries in-depth reporting and thought-provoking analysis of both national and international news. Get out of the old and get into the new. Subscribe to Final Call Digital Edition at digital.finalcall.com.
New Final Call Radio, streaming messages and music from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio. The official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.